Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Eric with SweetSpotDFS, and welcome to my DFS strategy video for the 2022 American Express. Basically, all we're doing in this video is finding our anchor plays to build our lineups around. And we're going to do that with the help from the SweetSpot score, the Marquee tee time pairings, the anchor buckets, which we covered in the preview video yesterday. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll provide a link top right-hand corner. And also the grass stats. We're going to look at all of that information and build some lineups here at the end of the video. So if you want to find timestamps for this video, you can find them in the description below. But I highly recommend you guys just use YouTube's progress bar. So much simpler. You can find the timestamps there. Let's start this video out with some giveaways. The first one being the optimizer. If you want to get your hands on this, all you got to do is be subscribed, comment down below, give me your favorite 7K golfer. I have a feeling we're going to need one in order to find the optimal lineup. So give me your favorite 7K and then email me with the contact information you see there, sweetspotdfs@gmail.com. Just let me know you're interested and I'll send it your way. But not only are you going to get this that helps you build lineups, but it comes with the dream sheet, which we'll be using exclusively in this video. So every piece of information I'll be talking about, you guys are going to have at your disposal. It also comes with the bucket system. So if you're ever curious as to what I'm referencing, you guys can also look at it with your own two eyes. Again, be subscribed, comment down below. Giveaway number 2 is what I like to call the subscriber giveaway. It's my way to reward you guys for participating on the channel. So all you got to do to get a free entry here, be subscribed and comment down below. Again, favorite 7K golfer. There is one caveat. We need to hit the goal of 275 subscribers before I run this giveaway. We're at 271. So 4 of you guys out there that aren't subscribed yet, once you subscribe, we'll run this giveaway at the end of the week. And one of you guys are going to win $10. So my way to thank you guys, it might not be worth a lot, but I can't just be giving away free money all the time. So anyways, highly encourage you guys to subscribe if you haven't. And again, my way to thank you. The third giveaway, Prize Picks giveaway. Now all you got to do for this one, sign up on Prize Picks if you're in a state that allows it, of course. Use the promo code SweetSpot and put $20 into your account. Once you do that, you get a free entry into my giveaway that'll get you back $20. And your entry will never be removed. It will constantly be in each giveaway that I run until it is called. So you can look at it this way. You're going to win $20 no matter what. And also, Prize Picks is going to match your deposit up to $100. So if you do only put 20 bucks in, you win this giveaway. You're playing Prize Picks for free, but instead of 20 bucks, you're going to have $40 to play with. So highly encourage you guys to sign up. Link is in the description below. Okay, that's all I have for housekeeping items. Let's get into this thing. We're going to start with the SweetSpot rank, which might be a little bit confusing this week, and I'll explain why. What you see over on the left side here is the rank that I have currently. Now you can see Patrick Cantlay is in 8th place, or is 8th in my rankings. And in fact, you're going to see a lot. Well, there's nothing really super crazy other than Cantlay being up there. Same with Tony Finau. I'm going to explain why the rankings are that way. I'm not using any grass stats to go with the ranking here. And why that is because we actually have 3 things to consider this week. And I don't want to put them in the general rankings just yet. Instead, I have this live calculation over here that will update it using the grass stats if I change this to a Y. So once I do that, boom, it changes. You can see the ranks over here, and we'll discuss those a little bit later. But outside of those grass stats, what I'm looking at is official world golf ranking, tournament history, bogey avoidance, birdie or better, and then season-long stats in DraftKings average, scoring average, rounds under 70%. This should be cuts made and not missed cuts. I feel like I update this every week, so I'm going to have to update the template that creates this for me. And then DK top 10, which is their frequency of finishing inside the top 10 of DK points for each tournament. So like I said, the ranks over here don't include those grass stats. These now do. And it changes those rankings a little bit. So Patrick Cantlay goes from 8th to 2nd And Justin Rose goes from 11th to 3rd, believe it or not. So those are some huge jumps. And really, I wouldn't think Rose to be that good of a golfer in this field. But that's what we have for our ranks. Let's talk about the top 20 of the basic ones. And then I'm going to load these ranks over there. And we'll talk about the top 20 that we see there. Kind of the differences, the changes. So in the top 20, what I like to do, look at some odd priced guys that found their way inside the top 20. And really all I can do is find KH Lee. So I almost feel like the rankings that I have currently on the screen, the ones that I'm using, not including grass stats, very similar to what DraftKings would provide. Like if I were to sort by salary, we only have really two golfers. Christian Bezuidenhout as well as Ricky Fowler that are outside the top 20, inside the top 20 of my ranks. So I think DraftKings might use something very similar to this with their pricing. I mean, they probably include some popularity and stuff like that, but this is probably the closest I've ever seen my ranks to the salary ranks of DraftKings. That's neither here nor there. That was a hard one to say. Wow. Anyways, let's load these ranks over on the other side into the current ranks and see what the top 20 spits out this way. So we'll go ahead, we'll filter this, and it automatically sorts. And now we have John Rahm, Patrick Cantlay, but again, Justin Rose, $8,600. That's the one that really pops out. And a bunch of other guys. Jason Day jumps up. I forget I think he was 30th in my initial rankings. Ryan Harmon, that's not a super big jump, but still inside the top 20, and he's in the 7K range. I think Will Zalatoris is down here. Yeah, $9,100. Matthew Wolff is down here, which I think that's where he belongs. Charles Hall III, exactly where I think he should belong to. Him being in the 8K range, I get it, but I don't think he's that good. And then nothing really drastic. Maybe some of these 6K golfers like Brandt Snedeker. That's pretty surprising to me, but I'm not gonna keep going on with this. I'm actually gonna remove those ranks because I don't need them on the spreadsheet. So we'll keep the general ranks here, and we'll go ahead and reference this when we can. What I like to go from here is looking at the Marquee Tee Time pairing. So let me go ahead, put a filter back on this, and sort by game. Now here's an interesting thing to note. There are pairings of 2 golfers for each of these games. Reason being, they're both paired up with amateur golfers. Most of the time they're celebrities. So they're going to have a foursome with them. They're going to be a part of a foursome, but only 2 PGA professionals, or PGA Tour professionals, that is. So that's why you're going to see duos like this. I changed the scoring format. So if you remember last week, I kind of created this thing called the 59 Club, which is taking all of the golfers in the field, taking the count, which is 156 golfers in this field, multiplying that by 0.59 or 59%, and that gets me a number. Well, this week, since we don't have 3 golfers in each of the pairings, we only have 2. What I then did with that number is multiply it by 66%, because that is 2/3 of that value. And that produced a number that I'm comfortable with, 51. So 61. I'm sorry, 61. So 61 is the magical number. And if the golfers in the group that are playing together, so say Streelman and Long, their cumulative rank is 107. So they're not close to 61. Therefore, I don't highlight them. Well, let's say Alex Noren and Adam Hadwin, their cumulative score or rank is 51. So that is under that magical number of 61. They get highlighted this dark green. Now the light greens are very close. The total here is 66. So it's close, therefore I highlight it. I call this my honorable mention group. But what I like to do is filter out by color, look at the dark greens, and these are all of the Marquee Tee Time pairings that we have. Now, there's a lot. There are actually 24 golfers. On average, when we have a full field event of 156 golfers, we'll see around like 6 marquee tee time pairings. 6 times 3 is 18 because there's 3 golfers in each of those pairings. That's about as much as we get. Sometimes we get up to 8, which means 24 golfers, which we have here. This seems a bit, I wouldn't say out of the ordinary or crazy, but if I'm trying to sell you on picking one of these golfers, it's just going to be easy. Usually when we look at this, it's kind of simple. And I would tell you, don't pair golfers up together, which I would still say in this very same thing, unless you're doing showdowns, that is. But don't pair any of these guys up. I don't think I'm going to have any lineups with Jon Rahm and Tony Finau in it. And I guess now that I say that, I might have just one lineup. In a different situation, in a different scenario, this helps limit the amount of lineups you can create, which is a big burden for a lot of us. When we have all these combinations of lineups we can build, we're trying to find ways to narrow down our player pools. But unfortunately, with the marquee tee time pairings for this week, because they're in duos, it's very, very difficult. There's 12 different groups to choose from. I'm not even going to try to attempt to tell you what the rules are this week when selecting these golfers. But I'd say this, feel comfortable to pick up to 3 of these golfers that you see on the screen. And when you get the optimizer, I also have it colored the same way. So highly encourage you guys to look at the optimizer. Now, if we're looking at the other ranks, I also highlighted them as well. Every single golfer that's highlighted here in dark green is also highlighted dark green over here. We can kind of do that by, or how did I say that? Well, what you see on the screen, everything is highlighted there. If I were to go filter out by the different colors and say light green, those light greens actually turn to dark greens. So the honorable mention groups become a part of the marquee tee time pairings. So you're just adding 4 more golfers to it. You're not taking 4 away from the actual marquee tee time pairings. You're just adding 4 to them, creating 28 golfers a part of the marquee tee time pairings, which is insane. I guess what I didn't do is look at the whites to see if there's any highlighted golfers. We do have 2 honorable mentions with Snedeker and Zach Johnson and no other dark green ones. So you can basically say these are your losers, but I bet 2 to 3 of the golfers in the optimal lineup will come from the loser group here. So yeah, I'm not going to talk about this any longer. Actually, let me pull up those marquee tee time pairings just so you guys can see them. So, to me, again, choose somewhere between 2 to 4 golfers from what you see on the screen. It's not going to be difficult. There are a lot of favorites in here. There's also a lot of 10Ks, 9Ks. A lot of your better golfers are here. So not going to be hard. But that's all I have for marquee tee time pairings. It's very difficult this week because of the duo tee time pairings, or tee times, how the PGA has it. I'm actually going to talk about grass stats right now because I think it's probably the best time to do it. I'm using bent grass because I don't have ryegrass. I have not created the same spreadsheets that I have for bent grass, POA, Pete Dye even. I should have, but I'm currently transitioning from spreadsheets to a database. So I'll actually be pulling, queries and stuff for you guys instead of doing spreadsheeting somewhere in the future. So I'm not going to waste time creating a ryegrass spreadsheet to provide these numbers with. Bent grass is going to work just as fine because bent grass and ryegrass on greens, very similar. And even around the course, very similar. Ryegrass is just not going to impede, like a Bermuda grass would, or like a Paspalum grass would, which is the same as bent grass. Don't get me wrong, they are different profiles for sure. One's a little bit thicker of a leaf, one's a little bit thinner of a leaf. I don't want to get into the specifics, but I'm just saying you can use bent grass. So what I'm going to do, we're going to go through and look at our top guys, top 20, that is, and just try to figure out some common names that we keep seeing. So when it comes to overall bent grass, you have a couple guys here with just one event under their belt. I want to actually remove those guys. I don't want to see that. We'll just go 4 events and lower. So here is your top 20. Goes down to Alex Noren as number 20. So I'm not going to talk about a lot of these golfers. Just kind of make a mental note of some of the golfers you see. I mean, Jason Day's up there at 7,300. Gary Woodland, 77. And then nothing but 10, 9, 8K golfers. And then Zach Johnson, 6K. Snedeker, 6K. So keep that in mind when it comes to overall Bentgrass. Now, top 10 percentage, again, this is their frequency rate of finishing inside the top 10. One huge glaring number, Jon Rahm, 57% top 10. I mean, he just played Tournament of Champions, almost took that one down. Jon Rahm is going to be so hard not to play. Again, I'm using Bentgrass stats, and this is going to be similar to what Ryegrass is, but I also want to say this is what the greens are going to be like too. Like the POA that they have on the greens is nothing like the POA you're going to get at AT&T Pebble Beach or at the Genesis Invitational or any of the other, like any other prominent POA golf courses. So I wouldn't so much get caught up with that. I think Bentgrass is okay to look at. But then number 2, you have Justin Rose, and then number 3, you have Jason Day. I mean, these are aging guys who, I mean, Day just constantly has injury issues. Justin Rose with kind of like trying to make more money for himself by doing equipment changes and stuff like that, just really kind of screwing up, you know, the last couple of years of his life when it comes to on the golf course. Maybe off the golf course, he's probably more successful, but on the golf course, he just hasn't been. Doesn't matter. He is a highly performance, or he does well on Bentgrass. Let's put it that way. Again, I'm not going to talk about all these guys. I don't want this video to be super long, but just take a mental note here as well. I'm actually going to include some of those guys that have just one event under their belt, because we're going to go into POA splits now. So when we're looking at the POA grasses, again, let's sort by POA, filter out those that have less than 4 events, and we're stuck with what we see on the screen. So when we're looking at our POA splits, it's just these stats here. Rahm is your top guy again. Cantlay is up there. So is Jason Day. And Justin Rose is up there as well. So you have those same guys, and you could probably build some comfortable lineups using a Justin Day and a Justin Rose. Or did I say Justin Day? Jason Day and a Justin Rose. Snedeker's up there again. And these stats, these overall stats go back to 2013. So keep that in mind. A lot of that success for those guys probably come from those later years, as they are a little bit older now. Looking at the success rate of finishing inside the top 10, Jason Day actually edges out Jon Rahm. So it almost feels like a lot of signs are pointing towards Jason Day. I will say this. Be careful. Jason Day is injury prone. He cites his back being a main cause for a lot of his issues. So just be wary if you do choose Day. If you play single entries and you play a ton of contests, it's not somebody I'd risk, honestly. He has winning upside, but hard for me to get there. We also see Snedeker up there once again. Zach Johnson's up there once again. Matthew Wolff makes an appearance up here, which is good. And Ricky Fowler, Tony Finau, Patrick Cantlay once again. So again, the cream rises to the top. And then the last thing is looking at Pete Dye events, Pete Dye statistics. The only thing I have to say about this is most of these people, most of the golfers are only going to play the Pete Dye golf course once. And at most, you're playing it twice, because it's a 3-course rotation. So you're playing the Pete Dye golf course, the Nicklaus course, and the La Quinta Country Club all one time each. And then a cut is made. And those that make the cut will go back to the stadium course, which is the Pete Dye golf course. So you only get 2 rounds of golf on Pete Dye. Is it enough to really justify looking at these stats? In the past, I would have said yes, because Pete Dye just creates golf courses so differently. But when we think about it, they're only playing one time on the Dye golf course until the cut's made. And the cut isn't going to matter all that much. It won't matter as much this week as it does when the cut is after 36 holes, but still, it's all about scoring within those first 3 rounds of golf. So I don't know if Pete Dye, like anything is going to matter with Pete Dye. But again, if we remove, you know, guys who have less than 4 events and we take the guys up here, Cantlay edges out Rahm just barely, just by a few percentage points, not a few tenths. A couple tenths. A tenth and a couple hundreds. It's close. But Cantlay does edge out Rahm when it comes to overall average. And then it goes to Christian Bezuidenhout, and then we have Justin Rose up there again. So Justin Rose continues to pop, and so does Jason Day. Oh, I'm gonna be sick. I don't know, guys. Like when it comes to these grass stats, those are difficult to see. I do like seeing Abe Answer up there. I also like seeing Seamus Power. Those are golfers I can get behind. I can also get behind Russell Knox. I can also get behind Siwoo Kim. Like, he did have a disappointing performance last week, but the buckets are probably going to show that doesn't really matter. And then you can see the rest here. I'm not going to continue going through. Your top 10%, your top 10 success rates, wow, that was hard to say, are actually led by Scotty Scheffler. 5 events. He's top 10 in 2 of those events. That's where we get our 40%. So it's a good percentage, but we want to see the more events with the better percentages, the better. So you have Rahm, Cantlay, Rose, once again, Abe Answer, Seamus Power, Brian Harman. Like, they all have 26 events, and really Harman has 38 events under his belt with a 26% clip of finishing inside the top 10. That's pretty damn good. And then you also have Kevin Streelman, which again, pretty damn good. So if you're looking at Pete Dye results exclusively, those are some good golfers to get on. Again, I have my reservations because you're only playing the course once before the cut, and then at most twice. That Sunday round it's going to matter then. But overall, when you want to get inside the top 10, what if one of these guys who aren't good on Pete Dye just shoots lights out the first couple days that they're not on the Pete Dye golf course, and then just kind of stay afloat? So let's put it this way. What if they shot for those 2 days like 14 under, like 7 under one day, 7 under the next day, and then they go to the stadium course and shoot 3 under? You know, not as good, but now they're sitting at 17 under, which is good for the tournament score. Tournament winner is going to be around 24 under. That's the average winning score. What if the guy then shoots, say, 4 or 5 under the next day and ends up finishing 9th at 20 under? That's still going to be good. Or 21 under. It's still going to be good. Like, nothing to really worry about. But his performances on Pete Dye were not good compared to perhaps some of the other guys. That's why I'd say don't get caught up on the Pete Dye. If you need to, just make it a tiebreaker between 2 golfers. If they're really close to each other and you're trying to find a reason to pivot to another guy, use Pete Dye stats that way. But don't start here. And if you have models out there, put like 5 weights or less if you can when looking at Dye stats, because I just don't think it's going to matter that much. And I think that might help you swing to a different golfer. So those are your grass stats. Like I said in the beginning, in the intro, it's a little murky. For me, I don't have the stats to provide you guys that I think are comfortable enough just yet. So take all that with kind of a grain of salt, grain of sand. Okay, let's review the buckets really quickly. Let's look into the anchor buckets. Again, you will have this information if you want the optimizer. But as we look, what I like to do is filter out by conditional, and I want this greater than or equal to 0.9. 0.9 is close enough to 1. This creates our anchor buckets. Now, we weren't able to really talk about this in the preview video, but we did a deep dive, and we went over each bucket and the min max. So you probably already understood what those anchor buckets were. So anyways, we're looking at what we want. This is like telling you guys you want at least one of these golfers, up to one. We want a golfer who top 20 here last year. We also want one who's finished in between 20th and 40th place. Maybe not so much. It's not a super huge confident bucket because it's not exactly one as our minimum, but still good enough to consider. We want golfers who missed the cut last year at this event, and we probably want around 2 of those guys. We also want golfers who did not play here. So you can go up to from 2 to 4 on those guys. So those are your last year finishing places, and we're going to use the optimizer and put in our bucket criteria, which you can find right here. I already have it preloaded. When I send it to you, these will all be zeros. Maybe not the first person I sent it to, but these will all be zeros. These will all be 6s. You can go ahead and adjust it accordingly. But again, we'll use that when we create lineups here. We only have 2 last week stats or 2 last week buckets to talk about. Golfers who missed the cut at the Sony, that's a really good indicator of success here. And then those that didn't play. So not traveling out to Hawaii and traveling back is actually a plus. Go figure. So those are our 2 last week buckets we want to choose. Our 2 course history buckets are pretty decent, actually, course history. So 20 to 40, which is pretty good. We want somewhere between 1 to 2 golfers from there. Course history buckets, the number 1 bucket, the 40 to 60 range. So that's not like super good finishes. That's basically having like a 40th place finish and a missed cut, or maybe a 30th, 20th place finish and a missed cut, because that all gets within that range. Those two results combined together get us into that 40 to 60 range. So maybe that's what you want to look. Someone who has top 20 here before, or maybe like top 30 here before with a missed cut. You want somewhere between 2 to 4 of those golfers, and maybe even 2 to 5, because I usually like to round up. I've never seen such a round number in my life when looking at these buckets. Last week, what we did was there was a 1.01 that became a 2, and then there were 2 golfers from that bucket inside the top 10. So I'm kind of wondering if that's what we should do here. Actually, let me see. No, it's actually 3.999 or 3.996. Okay, so just 2 to 4. Perfect. And then when we get to our salaries, like I told you, well, in the preview yesterday, we want a 10K golfer. But in this video, I'm telling you want at least 1 7K. But we're kind of averaging out to having 2 7Ks. And I'm going to be building somewhere between 1 to 3 in each of my lineups. Same kind of goes with, well, not same goes with the 9K, but you want at least 1 9K golfer up to a max of 2. And when it comes to strokes gain stats, it really doesn't matter. I'm looking at year-long stats. Guys, don't get caught up with bad long-term strokes gain stats. This is an event that's going to mitigate all of those strokes gains. I don't think you're going to get an advantage when looking at strokes gain stats this week. Based off of my bucket system, so strokes gain 1 is, they're all stats are positive. So that includes approach, around the green, off the tee, putting. Strokes gain 2 stats are positive off the tee, positive putting, and a negative stat in between. But I'll tell you one thing, those guys are mostly good golfers that have positive approach stats. Your strokes gain 3 golfers, it's a mixed bag, but for the most part, it's a positive off the tee stat with a negative putting stat, and either positive approach or negative approach, or positive around the green or negative around the green. So the 2 stats in between don't really matter. It's just the off the tee putting. And then strokes gain 4 is negative off the tee, positive putting, and whatever stat in between. And I'm showing 1 to 3 golfers from those top 3 buckets. And then you want 1 to 2 strokes gain 4 golfers. So your plotters, basically, not very good off the tee, but really good with their flat stick. And again, that's over a year's worth of data. I personally don't like using the last 50 rounds, last 20 rounds, because you're not going to know or like what that date frame is. And those are good parameters to normalize the data. Don't get me wrong. But if you're looking at like an Adam Scott, how do you How do you justify looking at the last 50 rounds when his 50th round was probably in 2017? I'm kind of joking, but not really. So yeah, that's a bit of a stretch, but he only plays like 12 events each year at most. 12 times 4 is 48, so I guess that is your last year. So never mind. Maybe I'll take that back. So I don't know. I like looking at a full year's worth. I don't care how many rounds of golf that is. It's all time. And when you are a golfer like I am, a competitive golfer, it doesn't matter if my last, like if I only played, how do I want to word this? Personally, for me, when it comes to strokes gained stats, if I'm looking at my own, I would rather look at a year's worth than say last month's. Like I know last month's was a good year for me, or it was not a good year, a good month for me based off of the scores that I'm shooting. You know, whether I'm gaining 0.5 strokes on off the tee probably just means I hit more fairways. Doesn't have nothing to do with me putting myself, you know, closer to the hole, or there's just not enough known as to why those strokes gained stats are good or bad. That's my soapbox. I'm not going to continue on. I don't want this video being super long, but you know, it's a strategy video. We're okay with it being a little bit long. Either way, this is the year, or this is the tournament where you can just factor in all the different strokes gained stats. Like it's kind of an equalizer type of tournament. So these are your anchor buckets. We're focusing on all of these buckets when building our lineups this week. I did actually take out the last year for that 20 to 40 range, and I think one more, maybe not. So yeah, I took this one out from the optimizer. So when we start building lineups here shortly, that one isn't going to be picked. I think it's this one right here, right? Last week 2. Not even close. Last year 4. Last year 4. Yeah, we have 0. Okay. Let's get into building some lineups. Yes. Okay. We're there. We're at that point. So I have all of my conditionals right in here. The ones that I talked about. These are all your anchor buckets minus the last year 4. And what my minimums are for each of those. I just want to double check that's correct. So let's see here. Last year 2 or last year 1, we want 2 of those, and then yeah, so 2, 1, 1, perfect. Last week numbers, last week 1s we want 2, and then last week 3 we want 1, and there you go. There you have it. Yeah, that's all the validation I'm going to do. I'm not going to spend a lot of time validating. Let's build some lineups with the optimizer. So I think the first thing to look at, actually, you know what? Let's find our anchor plays. I mean, we're not using the anchor or the marquee tee times because we really can't get there. So what I like to do is target some of the smaller buckets that have the better projections. So like, I like looking at this column for how many golfers are in that bucket this year. And then I like looking at these 2 columns by, you know, their min maxes. So the very first thing that jumps out obviously is the salaries. You want a 10K golfer, and we want 1 to 2 in our lineups. When we reviewed the past optimal lineups in the preview video yesterday, we did see 1 year where there are 2 10K golfers in the optimal lineup. I'm probably not going to build that way, but I will have at least 1 10K golfer in 95% of my lineups. I'll create 100 lineups, so 5 of them won't. 5 of them won't have a 10K golfer, or maybe even 3. I'm not sure yet. Meaning I'm going to have a 10K golfer. There are only 4 golfers in this field that are at 10K. So what does that mean? Well, if I'm creating 100 lineups, I can either distribute the ownership equally, so it's 25% for each guy, basically, or I can choose one guy over another, which I think we probably could get to, but I first want to explore the other buckets first. We also have salary, the 9K range. There's only 8 golfers in that bucket, and we want somewhere between 1 to 2. So again, we could probably narrow down who we want there. But the first one that I'm looking at right now is your strokes gained 1 golfers. You want at least 1 from here up to 3, but the comfort zone really is 1 to 2. So let's look at our strokes gained 1 golfers first. And again, this is year-long stats. All the stats are positive. So if I were to sort by salary, we have 3 10K golfers here, a couple 9Ks, and then our 7Ks. Now we want somewhere between 1 to 2. So we could easily start our lineups here, and I'll show you the other ranks that we have over on the side here. I mean, you get your choice of 3 10K golfers, so we're obviously missing 1 in the 10K range. But how would you want to build your lineups this way? Personally, I gravitate towards Rahm and Cantlay. I don't mind Scotty Scheffler whatsoever, but then pairing them up with, say, a Chris Kirk or a Harold Varner III, which I can't get there with HV3. He's on. This was going to sound insensitive, but obviously we all know blacklists are where we don't want to play anybody. So this has nothing to do with his ethnicity. He would be put on the blacklist. I mean, he has been, because I have rostered him and he has done nothing but screw me. So like I do have that recency bias inside me for Harold Varner III. I will play him some. I mean, he's 30th in my model, both by looking at grass stats and by looking at just regular stats. So that's good. And there's three rounds of golf. So that kind of helps with stomaching, rostering him. But oh man, I don't know if I can. So what I'm looking at right now is I really like Rahm. And I also like Cantlay. I think I want to play something like 80% of Rahm, 20% Cantlay. But I also don't want to miss out on Scotty Scheffler. So I'm either going to do one of 2 things. I'm going to put Scheffler in one of my higher entry fees, like just build out a Scotty Scheffler lineup, and he'll be, you know, like in a $1 winner take all, or he might be in a $3 birdie, or I'm not sure if I put him in one of my $5 contests. I don't play a lot of like big games, you know, they're all small entry fees, but I might do something like that with Scotty Scheffler. I absolutely love Scheffler this week, but I'm one of those. So many people are afraid to say Rahm is approaching Tiger-like numbers, and that's not to say he's anywhere close to what Tiger did. It's just him widening the gap between 1 and 2. You know, like he is the top golfer in the world, but he's continuously widening the skill gap between him and number 2, which is what Tiger did. So you can make those types of comparisons, but obviously not at the level of what Tiger is. Like you can't use, I mean, Tiger was like, you put him at a rank of 10 and the next guy was a 2. Rahm is like a 4 when the next guy is a 2. Maybe like a 4.3, 4.4, something like that. The next guy is a 2. So he's not anywhere close to Tiger, but he's above, he's way above and beyond most of these guys. Again, 40% clip finishing inside the top 10 on bent grass. Actually, no, 57% clip of finishing inside the top 10 at bent grass events. Again, this isn't bent grass, but it does play a lot like bent grass. I feel comfortable playing Rahm quite a bit. So I'm probably just going to start with Rahm. And I think when it comes to the optimizer, we're just going to lock Rahm in. So let's go that way. Now, that's one of our strokes gained 1. I will use these guys. You know, I might just go Rahm, Sungjae, Rahm, Seamus in a lot of my lineups, and also Rahm, Kirk, Rahm, Varner. Okay, I don't need to continue going on with that, but that bucket was very small to choose golfers from, and we want somewhere between 1 to 3. So you could go 10, 9, 7 just from that bucket alone. And you would then also, you would take care of those 4 buckets themselves just by looking at what you see. Plus, those golfers themselves have other buckets that they apply to. So looking at like last year and last week. They would check off the boxes for those buckets as well once we got there. But yeah, I like that one. So picking on that strokes gained bucket, pretty easy. The next one I would go to is last year threes. We want somewhere between 1 to 3, but the safe number is 1 to 2. There are 14 golfers in that bucket this year. Should be a little bit simpler to pick from. So let me open this up and we'll go to last year threes. And it's actually headed by Patrick Cantlay, which makes things super interesting. Actually, we have a bunch of our strokes gained 1 golfers right here. You have Chris Kirk in it. We got Sung Jae. We got Cantlay. I really like seeing Abraham Answer up there. I also don't mind some of these other 7K golfers like Russell Knox, Brian Harmon, Gary Woodland. I don't know. Maybe not. Not Woodland. I'm a wait and see type of guy with Woodland. But like Doug Gim played well here last year. Michael Thompson, not so bad. Francesco's another good question mark because I don't mind playing Francesco. Francesco would be a good player to do. But I think this just solidifies Sung Jae and Kirk as the golfers I want to build. So how about this? Let's do a Rahm, Sung Jae, Kirk lineup and see what it spits out for the other 3 golfers using the bucket criteria that we have out there. So all you got to do is lock these guys in. Again, you guys can use this optimizer. And if you want certain golfers in your lineup, you just go click in here, yes or no. If you no longer want them locked, just go ahead and delete it. So the backspace button or the delete button does not matter. They both work. And then you run optimizer and see what the optimizer will spit out. Now, if the criteria was too strict, we'll see NAs, but we don't, so that's good. And look at that. It actually included Kevin Streelman, which, did we just talk about Kevin Streelman? Might have been in some other things. We like that. Brendan Steele's up there. Peter Uline. Is Steele in here at all? No. So, hey, not a terrible lineup whatsoever. If we wanted to take out Sung Jae and say put an Abraham Answer in there, again, just delete this. Abe Answer. So now we have our 10, our 9, and our 7. Let's run that optimizer and see what this will spit out. So now KH Lee gets added, which I don't mind. Mickelson is up there. And Robert Streb, which I don't mind playing Robert Streb. Robert Streb is a guy that has performed well for me in other lineups. But let's say you didn't like Robert Streb. You can come down to 6,700 Robert Streb. Where are we, Robert? We can go no. And the run optimizer button's right there. We don't have to scroll back up. We just hit that button and it will automatically bring us to the top of the page. So now Dylan Wu gets added. The same golfers stay there, but you know what? I also don't like Dylan Wu. So let's get rid of Dylan Wu. Here's a tip, by the way. If you do like a certain golfer, you can add points to their metric over here. And in fact, if you do want to use the other stats, all you got to do is come over here, copy these all the way down. This is actually going to be a good thing to do. Bring them back over here and paste them right here. And in fact, you can create any metric you want for any of these guys and just update it. You're not going to break anything by doing this. So now let's say, let's take the Abraham Answer out of there and include Sung Jae Im. Let's see if it changes when we add the grass stats to everything. Of course, we crossed off Dylan Wu, or did we? We did not. Did we not? Oh, I put a yes for Dylan. I do that sometimes, but we did cross off Robert Streb. Anyways, let's not and run the optimizer again. Let's see what comes out. Rahm, Im, Kirk, Streelman, Steele, Uline. We already saw that lineup. So with grass stats, that doesn't really update anything. So interesting. Let's see if Abraham Answer will get us Phil Mickelson and Robert Streb once again. It does not. Now it includes, well, Phil, but Jason Day and Zach Johnson. Wow, that is super interesting. Let's create a couple more lineups just to get a little bit of an idea here. Actually, let's do a Patrick Cantlay lineup. Why not, right? So let's take him out. I'm not going to include a third golfer. We'll just do a Cantlay Kirk lineup. Ooh, a lot of people are going to like this one. Cantlay, Wolf, Justin Rose, Chris Kirk, Jason Day, and Bill Haas. You know what? Bill Haas, this would actually be a really good tournament for him to play in. I think he was from this area, or he just has family that lives in the area. If you recall, like 3-4 years ago, this is actually where a car accident of one of his best friends, he was actually there. They got in a car accident. He survived. Bill Haas survived, but his friend did not. And that kind of changed things for Bill Haas from there on. This was not the same guy. So we take him out, and now we add Richie Werenski, which I absolutely love. And you actually include Russell Henley. These are some really good lineups when you start with Cantlay. Just saying. Let's take Kirk out of there. Let's run one more lineup. It'd be really funny to see Kirk up there again, because then we just know we got to play Kirk, right? But we don't. Instead, we see, well, we have Henley back up there, Rose, Mickelson, Day, and Lebioda. So that's a really interesting lineup. How about we just include Rahm? Rahm, Answer. We're not even selecting Answer, so the optimizer likes him. Justin Rose, Mickelson, KH Lee, and Sung Kang. And I don't mind Sung Kang. I played him last week. He made the cut. Maybe not, actually. I don't think he did. I think he missed it on the number. I thought I had a cut made with him, and then that didn't happen. Sung Kang, 61. What did we do last week? Last week, 3. Is that a miscut? Last week, 3, miscut. Okay. So yeah, he missed it on the number. So if I actually take all of these away and I remove all of the conditionals, what I'm going to do is just copy and paste these over to another cell. I don't want to lose them. But if we copy, it's a 6. Copy this. Bring this down to here. Paste. And run a lineup. Let's see what this is. No conditionals, no locks. This would be your most optimal lineup just based off of everything. And you got Rahm, Answer, Rose, Mickelson, Day, and Jimmy Walker. Not a terrible lineup. I don't like Walker to put in my lineups, but I also don't like seeing Jason Day there either. Like I'm not a pro Jason Day golfer until he changes his ways, and I shouldn't say changes his ways, just shows that he, he's healthy, basically. So anyways, that would be that. Actually, I'm not satisfied with our breakdown so far. So we chose 2 buckets to look at. One of the other buckets, we went last year 3s, which is that 1 to 20 range. Last week's, I don't know if I really care for that one. Course history 2s. Yeah, let's look here. Course history 2s. We want somewhere between 1 to 2 course history 2. So we can clear that out and put that in. Cantlay's back up there. So Cantlay just covers everything that we need from a bunch of these buckets. That isn't to say he's this is what I've gotten in trouble with in the past, where I just see he's a part of all the buckets I want to use, and it's like, yep, Cantlay's the man. No. It just gives him better opportunities to finish inside the top 10. It doesn't solidify, it isn't concrete, it just gives better chances. So just keep that in mind. It's still good to see. Like, obviously, I like seeing Patrick Cantlay up there, but we have so many other good names right underneath Cantlay that I'm actually pretty excited about this bucket, just in general. Abe Answer's there. Seamus Power. Maybe he'll be low owned. Who knows? I know he had a really good finish last week that might get people on, but every podcast is talking bad about Seamus Power, how he's mispriced. You know, if you want to play that ownership angle, Seamus Power is actually a good play this week. Just based off of rankings alone. I mean, he doesn't break my top 10 no matter which stat, you know, which ranking I use. Seamus Power is a great play. So maybe he's my 9K golfer I pair with Rahm in a bunch of lineups. You get 3 rounds with him. He's a great scorer. But yeah. Abe Answer, Rose, Ricky Fowler, Alex Noren, Siwoo Kim, Brian Harmon, Russell Knox. These are actually all good names. Andrew Landry, he won here 2 years ago. Andrew Putnam, he's kind of... don't sleep on Putnam. He looked promising last week. Francesco, Dylan Fratelli, and James Hahn, which all super interesting. I don't mind any of those plays. I do like seeing Cantlay up there. I don't mind seeing Gooch. I like seeing all these guys up here. So, not an easy bucket to choose from with that. One more bucket to look at. These other ones are very volume driven. Course history ones. Did not plays for last week. Also missed cuts. Also last year's. Anything like 45 and greater. These are all your volume driven buckets. Meaning there's a high chance this bucket's just going to finish inside the top 10 through osmosis, essentially. With that many golfers, that many chances, more than likely they're just going to finish inside the top 10 because they're just going to have enough firepower to do so. Which means we don't have any other buckets to talk about. I think the only other one to talk about is last year 4s. Why not? Gooch, Wolf, Fowler, Noren, List. Those are your only 8K and above guys. We do have a nice plethora of 7K golfers. KH Lee did show up on the optimizer a bunch of times. So, yeah, I don't mind that at all. Let's use the optimizer. Let's lock in Jon Rahm. I absolutely want to play Rahm. And, oh man, I do want to play Seamus Power. Let's do that. Let's do some... Actually, I'll let the optimizer select whomever. Let's just go ahead and run the optimizer. I'm actually going to use the criteria that we have. And just build lineups. Let's go ahead. Let's build 9 lineups and just let the optimizer do its work. And see how many times certain players show up. You're going to see the optimizer do something weird. It's how it thinks. It's how it goes through. If you see this, don't worry about it. It's just, you can see the lineups saving in the background on the lineups page. So that's the other thing I like about this optimizer. You can create lineups. It saves to the lineup page, and you can then copy those over and mass enter them into DraftKings. So super nice, super helpful. Saves a lot of time. But if you do create your criteria a little too strict, it's just not going to be able to perform the way you want it. It'll show some NAs, which I'm going to make it do here shortly. But when it comes to what... Let's actually review some of those lineups. Let me scroll in. Let me zoom in. So we start, let's see, Jon Rahm with Abraham Answer just one time. Jon Rahm with Corey. Rahm with Zally. Rahm with Im. Actually with Im twice. And everybody else once. So Jon Rahm and Sung J Im. It's a good combo to start with. Then we got a bunch of Justin Rose. Actually just 2. I actually have my ownership percentages pretty strict. So kind of interesting to see there. Maybe a better way to look at this is to look at the ownerships right here. This will show you what your current ownership is of that golfer. So Sungjae 22. I do have some strict max ownership, so that's why you see that. I do want to see all the golfers it's choosing though. How about this? Notable names it did not select. We're not worried about the 10Ks that we see here. It's interesting it picked Tony Finau, who was a 10K. Don't worry about the 10Ks. We're making a choice to go with Rahm. So just not going to select those other 10Ks. Matthew Wolff is the first one, which, hey, the model doesn't say so. I also don't fully trust in Matthew Wolff this week. So interesting to see there. Cameron Tringali, that's a surprise. I wouldn't mind playing Cameron Tringali whatsoever, but hey, model with the buckets saying maybe not this week. Same goes with Bezuidenhout and Ricky Fowler. Mind you, if I were to create a few more lineups, some of these guys would be picked. So let's go ahead and let me run 5 more. So you just saw the function of the run and save 9 lineups. You can also just run optimizer once and then save. Run it again and then save. You can go one by one and you can analyze what you see. And if you don't like it, you can change it. Like some of these I don't see many issues with. Wesley Bryan sighting. I don't mind seeing that. He's a good scorer. Okay, that's an interesting one too. There's one piece I want to add. Actually, I'll get back to it. I'll show you what happens if you break this. Actually, did it just create the same lineup it just had? Still thinking. I may have broken it. And if you do come into this issue where it kind of stalls, if you hit the escape button a bunch of times, like consecutively, see if it'll help. It'll work. There you go. It will kind of reset it. So you don't have to worry too much about it. You can come back here and look at it. It actually created a different lineup. But yeah, you can go ahead and hit the escape button a bunch of times. A couple pop-ups will happen. And on one of them, you can just say, okay. On another one, you just want to say exit. So actually, no, you want to say okay on all of them. So just continuously hit the escape and okay, and it'll pause the optimizer and then it'll shut it down. And then you can get back into it and resume your activities. So let's see here. Strokes gained 1. How about this? Let's say I want it to select 3. And I also want it to play Patrick Cantlay. Actually, he is a strokes gained 1. Never mind. I want it to play Tony Finau. He is not a strokes gained 1. So we're probably going to run into issues. There we go. Perfect. So you see all these NAs. That means your criteria is too strict. Obviously, I came down here and I made this really strict. So you're not going to, I mean, you can try to figure out what the issue is. You can see some of these weird numbers here. What I would do, I mean, it's going to be frustrating if you don't do it this way. Just change everything to zeros on your mins and then work your way in what you can do, as opposed to trying to troubleshoot and try to find the exact bucket. That's the issue. You also can use a little bit of logic here. Having 2 10K golfers as your locks, probably going to be difficult for the optimizer to run, especially if you're using criteria, like other criteria, that is. So I'm having it run right now. Maybe it's not a great idea because obviously it just broke, but just giving you a little bit of a tutorial here. But here, you see the blue spinning thing. If I were to hit escape a bunch of times, like while it's trying to think, well, it should work. I guess it's not. I don't think this is when it's broken, but it can go into loops where it will just not operate properly. But I just tried hitting the escape button a ton of times there, so it didn't work this time. Compelling stuff. I did want to show you how, like when it breaks, what to do but then basically I'm still trying to fit 2 10K golfers into my lineup. So the optimizer was just broke, and now I'm, you know, creating a little bit of more strain on it. So that's why it's kind of taking a little while here. All right. Yeah. Oh, there. It just updated. Cool. It actually created a lineup. Okay, so we're past that. We don't need to look into that anymore. If you want to look at your lineups, you can check them out here. You can also, if you want to enter them into a contest, you can go and hit this randomize button. And what it'll do is it'll take each of your lineups from this lineups page, copy it over to a separate area, rank sorted off of a random number, and then paste them all right here. So you can see each of these lineups are going to be slightly different. So John Rahm with Roger Sloan. Now it's John Rahm, Sung Kang at the end. You can continue to do that. And to me, this is just taking bias out of what you put at the top of your lineups when you enter them. Super, super helpful. And then if you just want to see a clean slate, just go ahead and delete that, those numbers. One other thing that I want to show you. So in this column, it helps me figure out how many duplicate entries that I have. What ends up happening is when you copy and save, everything gets pushed down 1. So when you're done building your lineups, come up to cell J2. So come up to here, and right after this parentheses, actually you can delete this parentheses, but go all the way to where the letter I is, and don't highlight I, but highlight the 1 or whatever the number is plus that parentheses, and then just hit 2. You can hit tab and it'll update. And then from here, you just scroll down to where all the zeros are. And this will update all your lineups to see how many duplicate entries you have. And I'm currently showing none. But if I were to copy and paste this whole thing right here, now you can see it updated with 2. And you can find where the other one is. And you can do whatever you want. To me, I just go in and I delete it. I don't want to see duplicates. So I just go and delete, copy and paste, you know, all that good stuff. So fun way to do that. I've talked more about the optimizer and how to use it than I have actually building lineups, I feel like. So we're going to stop talking about all the functions you can do with the optimizer. Again, if you want this, all you got to do is be subscribed, comment below, email me at SweetSpotDFS@gmail.com, and I will send it your way. But I think that's really all I have for this strategy. To me, I think I like going with Rahm. Rahm is my number 1 guy. And oh, by the way, another function here, you can delete all lineups. Boom. I wouldn't mess with this. Actually, you can. You can mess with these however you want. Just know that if you were to hit some of these buttons, a lot of these defaults are going to happen. So what I can do right now while I'm on screen, because I'll remember it. Put my minimum bucket there, my maximum bucket. So what ends up happening is if you do a reset, and actually now I got to copy this information too. If you do a hard reset, what will happen is all your max ownerships will go to 100%. So whatever you had placed in here will just get erased and it will be set with 100. These will all go to 0s. These will all go to 6s. And whatever you have in your lock and your core, you know, putting as a Y or an N, that will also be cleared out. So everything will be back to scratch. If you use my defaults, the bucket system numbers will get populated with whatever I just put here. And also the metric that I have. That will then get populated over here. So if you actually put your own numbers over here, or you sorted this out however you have it, because my metrics are currently used or currently placed here by the order that I have this. So if you sort this and then you hit that reset, now your metrics are going to be off a little bit. But again, you can go in here and edit it however you want. And you can also copy and paste from the dream sheet. So makes everything super simple. But yeah, if you have any questions using the optimizer, you can always reach out to me. I have no problem answering any of your questions. I think it's a ROM week. And if it's not a ROM week, I don't mind playing a Patrick Cantlay. Like, it's Cantlay and ROM or bust for me. And in all reality, I think one of them is going to be inside the optimal lineup. So you're going to need them regardless of if they win or not. So that's just my feelings. I would love to see a Scotty Scheffler win, or any of these other guys. Honestly, I would love to see a Will Zalatoris win. Like, he is a guy that I'm a fan of. I want him to do well. So that's all I have for you guys. Reach out with any questions. Other than that, I wish you success this week. Good luck. Thank you for watching. Please like the video if you did enjoy it. Comment down below with whatever. And please subscribe if you have not yet. I'll see you in a Prize Picks video tomorrow. All right, bye.